Hello everyone. I welcome all the learners to the Yukt Minds initiative of 10 minutes and newspaper done, where we provide you squeezed gist of bulky newspaper to save your precious time. Today is 23rd May and we have selected 10 relevant news for you. You can read the headings of the articles and download the PDF of the gist from our Telegram channel or website Delhi Current Affair tab. So let's begin. First news. Prime Minister Narendra Modi co chaired the third summit of the Forum for India Pacific Islands Cooperation (FIPIC). The previous two meetings of the India Pacific Islands Cooperation were held in November 2014 in Fiji and August 2015 in Jaipur. Honorable PM stated small island nations of the Pacific Ocean are in fact large ocean states. He said the small size of the island nations of the Pacific Ocean region should not overshadow the fact that the islands had large space in the ocean. Climate change, natural calamities, poverty, and famine already existed, but now new challenges are emerging as supply chains of food, fuel, fertilizers, and pharma are facing hurdles. Now, what is FIPIC? Forum for India Pacific Islands Cooperation is a multinational grouping for cooperation between India and 14 Pacific Island nations. It includes 14 islands named Cook Islands, Fiji, Kiribati, Marshall Islands, Micronesia, Nauru, Niue, Samoa, Solomon Islands, Palau, Papua New Guinea, Tonga, Tuvalu, and Vanuatu. You should mark all these islands on the map for better preparation for the preliminary exams. A major part of India's engagement with these countries is through development assistance under South South cooperation, mainly in capacity building and community development projects. Second news. Cough syrup exporters will have to undertake testing of their products at specified government laboratories from June 1 before getting permission for the outbound shipments. The direction has come after quality concerns were raised globally for cough syrups exported by Indian firms. WHO sounded an alert in 2022 over deadly contamination in four brands of cough syrup manufactured by a Sonipat based pharmaceutical company that were subsequently linked to the deaths of 72 children in Gambia. Third news. INS Sindhuratna sails for 97 days to India after major refit in Russia. The Navy's Kilo class submarine INS Sindhuratna underwent a medium refit life certification MRLC process in Russia, which extended its life. With delays in induction of submarines, the aging SSKs 209's German HDWs and EKM's Russian Kilos are being put through the MRLC process, which will extend their life by 10 to 15 years. Now, what is this SSK? It is a US Navy classification symbol for a diesel electric submarine specialized for anti submarine duties. EKMs is Russian Kilo class diesel electric submarines which have been there in India since 1986. Other types of submarines are SSN, which is nuclear powered attack submarine. Fourth news. Assam Chief Minister Himanta Biswa Sarma reiterated that the Armed Forces Special Powers Act, known as AFSPA, was likely to be lifted completely from the state by the year end as law and order had improved considerably. It has been lifted from most parts of Assam except 8 districts and 1 subdivision. What is AFSPA? A reincarnation of the British era legislation that was enacted to quell the protests during the Quit India movement. The AFSPA was issued by way of 4 ordinances in 1947. The ordinances were replaced by an Act of Parliament in 1958. It was known initially as the Armed Forces Assam and Manipur Special Powers Act 1958. After the states of Arunachal Pradesh, Meghalaya, Mizoram, and Nagaland came into being after being separated from Assam, the act was adopted to apply to these states as well. The AFSPA gives unfettered powers to the armed forces and the Central Armed Police Forces deployed in disturbed areas to kill anyone acting in contravention of law and order and arrest and search any premises without a warrant and with protection from prosecution and legal suits. This act was amended in 1972 and the powers to declare an area as disturbed were conferred concurrently upon the central government as well as states. Tripura revoked the act in 2015 and Meghalaya was under AFSPA for 27 years until it was revoked by Ministry of Home Affairs from 1st April 2018. Currently, AFSPA is in some parts of Assam, Nagaland, Manipur and Arunachal Pradesh. There is a famous movie named as Heather by Vishal Bhardwaj, which is about AFSPA in Kashmir. Fifth news, the Education Ministry organized a workshop on May 22 with the aim of unifying a network of 60 school examination boards of various states and union territories under one umbrella. The main component of this plan is PARAK, the National Assessment Center, which has been set up as an organization under the NCRT. The mandate of PARAK is to work on bringing the school boards across states and union territories on a common platform. The need for equivalence of boards has been felt with an aim to establish a unified framework that enables seamless transitions for students moving between different boards or regions. For example, it will make it easier for a student of Tamil Nadu to take admission in a Mumbai university. What is full form of PARAK? Performance, assessment, review, and analysis of knowledge for holistic development. NCRT has notified in January this year about India's first national assessment regulator, PARAK. Sixth news, Centre seeks stricter implementation of ban on e-cigarettes. With electronic cigarettes easily available online and at tobacco shops, despite a ban, the Union Health Ministry has issued a public notice for stricter implementation of the Act, which prohibits their manufacturing, sale and advertisements. The Prohibition of Electronic Cigarettes Act came into force in 2019. Seventh news, Antarctic sea ice cover hits many record lows as global temperatures rise. The increased meltings of sea ice leads to a rise in global sea levels, which poses a major threat to coastal cities. Like Jakarta, capital of Indonesia, has been shifted because of the same reason. According to NASA, meltwater from Antarctic ice accounts for about one third of the global average rise in sea level since 1993. Such a drastic reduction in ice also changes the way in which water flows across the world, whether it is horizontal circulation or vertical circulation of water, affecting global weather and underwater ecosystems. The Southern Ocean, according to a report by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change (IPCC), is important for the transfer of heat from the atmosphere to the global oceans. This change in temperature and density can subsequently affect weather patterns and alter deep water nutrient flows. Algae that feed smaller crustaceans like krill, which feed whales, seals, penguins, and other birds, are found growing on the sea ice. Diminishing sea ice means that less food is available to support the Antarctic food chain. Less sea ice also means that more of the sun's heat, which would otherwise be reflected back, is absorbed by the darker colored ocean. Heat is trapped in what is known as the ice albedo feedback cycle. All this is changing the overall surface area of Antarctica to a very fragile state. Eighth news is about elderly people and their care. This comes under the society section of GS Paper 1, meant mainly for the mains examination. By 2050, India's elderly population will touch 319 million. The number of people over the age of 60 is projected to increase from 8.6% of the population in 2011 to 20% by 2050. At the same time, the overwhelming majority of India's elderly are not covered or hardly covered by pension and social welfare. Thus, the burden often falls on children to take care of the parents. Old age support is one of the main factors driving the preference for a son, and our society is known to prefer sons to the extent of resorting to illegal sex selective abortion. Now, meta preference for a son was a topic covered in detail in 2017-18 economic survey. Based on this topic, there is a research paper in Haryana which analyzes the relative contributions of sons and daughters to the well-being of their parents. Research papers draw attention to the contribution that married daughters make to their natal families, an aspect that tends to become invisibilized in a patrilocal culture. People have children not only out of love or for emotional reasons, but also because they invest in children as a way of guaranteeing their future, both in terms of their continuity of lineage and their own care once they become old. There is strong son preference observed in our country. In the West, The welfare of the elderly is guaranteed through relatively well funded pension and social security systems. But in India, which has the world's second largest population of people over the age of 60, and where over 90% of the workforce is in the unorganized sector, pensions are limited to a tiny minority. Also, poverty incidence is higher among the elderly, especially older women, leading to their greater economic dependency on their children. Such elderlies end up relying on family and their own labor for their care. This is where a son becomes preferable over a daughter because son contributes economically even after marriage and brings a daughter-in-law which ensures the care of his parents. As a result, son preference reinforces lower status of women through sex selection as well as discrimination against surviving daughters. Parents with sons, through the practice of arranged marriage, tend to select submissive daughter in laws to ensure old age support. Existing research also suggests that sons may not always care for their parents out of a sense of duty, but may do so to derive benefits from providing support. For example, a higher inheritance or elderly parents taking care of their grandchildren. Now, Korea's success story in reversing sex ratio imbalance has set an example, which suggests that an effective strategy to curb daughter elimination, rampant in states like Haryana, is public financed policies to ensure financial support and healthcare for the elderly, which can reduce their dependence on sons. According to a 2012 UNFPA study covering 7 states, nearly 50% of the elderly live in joint families with their spouses, children, and grandchildren, and there was a strong preference to live with the sons. Now, why do such prejudices exist? First, elderly care is central to the issue of daughter discrimination. Secondly, it is assumed that parents will live with their sons and daughters are not expected to contribute. Third, given that the married daughter's income is likely to be pooled with the husband's, daughter's support to parents may be limited to emotional and social. Lastly, when married daughters do support their parents financially, their parents may not reveal such support because of fear of social censure. In view of the higher prevalence of poverty and illness, especially among older women and among the elderly with only daughters, there is an urgent need for further strengthening health coverage and pension support with rising elderly population in our country. Ninth news, European Union imposes $1.3 billion fine on Meta. Orders to stop sending data to United States of America. The penalty of 1.2 billion euros is the biggest since the EU's strict data privacy regime took effect 5 years ago, surpassing Amazon's 746 million euro fine in 2021 for data protection violations. The decision applies to user data like names, email and IP addresses, messages, viewing history, geolocation data, and other information that Meta and other tech giants like Google use for targeted online ads. 10th news, the USA signed a new security pact with Papua New Guinea on May 22 as it competes with China for influence in the Pacific. Papua New Guinea's location just north of Australia makes it strategically significant. It was the site of fierce battles during World War II, and with a population of nearly 10 million people, it's the most populous Pacific Island nations. Pacific Island nations have also received attention from China, with China having signed a security agreement last year with the Solomon Islands. So let's know what you know. Question of the day is, Papua New Guinea falls in which continent? If you know the answer, write in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Keep visiting our website, Telegram, Instagram and Twitter handles.